Some of you are still here, but wonderful. I'm really pleased that you didn't leave halfway through in disgust. And I felt at the beginning of the day, you know when you've invited some people round for a party and you put all the food out, and will they turn up and will they behave if they? And you've behaved beautifully. And I don't know about you, I've had a ball. I've really enjoyed it. And every person I've spoken to has been very polite. But if you do have any sort of constructive criticism, I'm not today, but a couple of little things just to tell you. Firstly, if you put your hand up for a taxi, taxis will be here at 4:35, and if you could sort of, if you like the look of someone, double up, that sort of thing. That would be, and it might be a good way to make new friends and all the rest of it. Just for information, with a little cake sale, we raised 270 quid for Macmillan, so that's. So thank you. That's a huge thank you to you, but also to the staff and students at the academy who baked the cakes. Brilliant. And another thing, weren't the prefects great? Yeah. They're not here to clap, so sadly they would have loved to have been, but they've got lives and they're not that interested in education conferences, but. Ruth suggested that if you would like to, because they would appreciate it so much, if you would like to take a card on the way out and just send an email which she can pass on to them, just going, you guys were ace. That would be, that would be nice. But don't, obviously, when she might regret that if you all take one. But that would be a really nice thing to do. So I feel like. What's the fella played by Kevin Costner? When he sort of the Field of Dreams, feeling a bit like hearing voices, but we built it and you came, and I want to really, really, really thank Ruth, who right from the. As soon as I mentioned it, would you really, really keen, really supportive. Her PA, Jacqueline, is a machine and made everything that, the things that made this work were Jacqueline, really, weren't they? Who's not here today? Because, again, life. And all the, there's various staff at the academy who've helped and, as done the baking and that sort of thing. Also the sort of, all the unsung heroes, the technical crew who've been helping out during the day. And the site team and all that sort of stuff, who just, they're the people that if they get it wrong, then you really notice, but if they get it right, we don't see it. So the fact that we haven't really noticed them means that it's worked. So many things to say, but I'm just going to stop and hand over to Mr. Bennett to wrap up and let you go. Thank you.
Thank God for that. I thought we were going to get the night bus home, David. Much appreciated. It's that time of the party when, you just want everyone to go home. Not at all. It's been a brilliant day. I've got to hand it to David for assembling a galaxy of stars, all killer, no filler. And it was true. I don't know how long it took you before you were exhausted by ideas, but for me it was around about lunchtime. If you haven't been following the ResearchEd Twitter account, probably the most important accolade of the day is that we have been trending all day long. Absolutely, give yourself a round of applause for that. Now, actually, on one level that's incredibly trivial, who cares? But on another level, it shows something. When you get 300 people in a room all talking about the same thing, it gets very loud. And there's been some great conversations going on today. And the thing I think which differentiates an event like this from more traditional CPD, which you may be more familiar with, apart from the fact that you're not sitting in a school hall staring at your head teacher with a bit of sugar paper in front of you, telling the person next to you something about yourself that you've never told anyone before. I was once in an inset where they said that. They said, turn to the person next to you and tell them a secret. I love you. Anyway, the important thing is, I remember talking to somebody from Twitter who said that teachers We're one of the groups worldwide who use Twitter most of all. It's us. We are the junkies. We are the social media people. We apparently like to talk about our job, even when we're not in our jobs, more than anyone else in the world. Can you put your hand up if you are on Twitter, incidentally? That's astonishing. Right? That's like 110% of you are on Twitter. We can't get figures for it. We reckon it's about between 5 and 10% of teachers in the UK are probably on Twitter. And they all follow David Didau, obviously, so he knows exactly who they are. And that's quite a lot. And the thing I said earlier on about being a powerful voice, the best thing we can do now, and this is just my experience from previous Research Ed conferences, is carry on the conversations that you've had today, and don't let this be compartmentalized into a lovely day in gorgeous Swindon when the sun was shining. Let it be a day where you began a conversation, because the reason why we have the slots quite short, you probably noticed we've got very short slots here, and I know they were short because half of our speakers overran, was so that you could bring along big ideas, some headlines, a little bit of expansion, a little bit of, a little bit of explanation, and then basically an invitation to carry on the conversation. If you found a good idea here today, keep speaking to the people who brought it to you. Bring it to the people back in your schools. Write a blog about it. Make a legacy of what you've learned today. And obviously, as you'll know, writing about something is often a very good way of consolidating your learning about something. Or maybe that's just spurious pseudoscience, I don't know, but I like to believe it's true. But do blog about it, share it, and tell other people about it. It's one of the healthiest and most powerful ways that you can really embed your learning and make a legacy of it. We will endeavour to ask as many of the speakers as possible if they can contribute their slides and notes and so on, and then we'll put it up on the Research Ed website as soon as we possibly can. And we'll also archive all the blogs that people write about it, so we'd love to hear from you from that one. In terms of future Research Eds, keep your hand up if you've been to a Research Ed before. Oh, it's like a cult now, fantastic. It's like Teach First. Without the ritual sacrifice to prove your loyalty. I was in Teach First, sorry, this is an aside. I was in Teach First last week with my czar hat on, and I actually witnessed, and some of you will know this, I witnessed the Teach Firsters being recruited and interviewed. It was fantastic. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen. It was like something out of The Matrix. Anyway, that's just an aside. So please carry on the conversations. There will be another, this is like James Bond, Research Ed will be back. We've got very little up till Christmas because we're knackered. But in January, we'll be going to Amsterdam. If anyone fancies coming to Holland and listening to Research Ed in Dutch, then you're more than welcome. In February, we'll be doing one in Somerset. And in May, we'll be going to Sweden. In July, we're going to go to Melbourne. If anyone wants to come to Australia, by all means, come along and present if you want. And we'll be doing 4 or 5 others throughout the UK as well. So there's lots and lots of opportunities there to come along. We'll be doing one in Eton at some point next year. So that'll be the poshest Research Ed event I think we've got.